effectively towns like Rotherham have been abandoned by the coalition government?
I've been doing business in Rotherham for about 25 years, and I've seen the decline in Rotherham over that period of time. Companies that I used to come and sell product to that employed lots of people, like Gloystan and Hallam Freight and the Templeborough Rolling Mills, have disappeared, and Keith's absolutely right. But those old industries have gone. As Yvonne has said, she's from the northwest. The coal and the steel has disappeared. We have to replace those, and we've started doing that with things like the Advanced Manufacturing Park and companies like Rolls-Royce investing and creating 150 jobs in Rotherham. That's fantastic news, but what we have to do is to do more of that, and I firmly believe that the Conservative Party are the people that can do that. We're the ones that are seeing the economy now start to grow. It's grown by 1%. We're on track to be...
Simon, your predictions were that it was going to be on 4.6%, so the country is flatlining under Conservatives.
We are growing the economy. We're forecast that the UK will have the best economy in terms of growth in 2013 in Europe, and those things are now starting to happen. But we have to do more of it. We have to, as Lord Heseltine suggested, devolve more decision-making power to the regions, to places like Rotherham, so it can have more control over its own destiny.
But Keith's biggest concern was unemployment. And
what
unemployment
is the point of creating thousands of jobs if you're going to bring half the third world in to come and take them? It's pointless.
All right, your point, Marlene Guest, is that we've got people sitting at home on benefits and we've got immigrants doing some of the jobs. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's no good creating jobs like you did last time. You created thousands of jobs and people came in, but you've got to make people realise that they've got to take the jobs.
But the people you refer to so disparagingly, you know, there are large numbers coming from Iraq, Afghanistan, places where Labour and the Tories and the Condems, where they've spent money on bombs and bullets bombing other countries, and people are coming over here as a result of these warmongering tactics. And you talk about Lord Heseltine. It was Lord Heseltine and his mob under Thatcher that took a scythe to the coal industries and the steel industries and destroyed entire communities. And I've been talking to the ex-miners over here, and it's happened here as well. Absolutely. Because the Condems don't care, and Labour has done nothing for the miners. I'm meeting with the Orgreave Miners Committee for Justice tomorrow, and you know, we're campaigning to bring justice back for these people whose communities have been laid to waste.
Jane Collins.
Excuse me, this is all very well, but you're not actually getting to the point of what is going to be done about it. The fact of the matter is that an open-door immigration policy doesn't work. And that isn't something against anybody that's coming into the country. It doesn't matter who you are. It's open-door immigration policy doesn't work. It puts strains on facilities, and it puts strains on the welfare facilities as well. This gentleman has had his welfare payments removed. Now, if you come over into this country, you can go straight onto the welfare state without actually having to prove anything. So that sort of thing has to be addressed, it has to change, and it won't change. The coalition can't possibly stop the open door immigration policy. Next year we'll have hundreds of thousands of Bulgarians and Romanians coming into this country. That puts pressure on the employment. So I think we've got to address the problem. Never mind who did what and why they've done it. It's here, it's now, let's sort it out.
Michael Beckett, what are people saying to you on the streets when you're a member of the party, which is part of a government, and they're taking benefits off people in Rotherham?
Well, having been a Citizens Advice Bureau manager and spent my time before that doing legal aid, specifically in welfare benefits, it's an area I know very well. I certainly want to help improve the life chances of people in Rotherham, and I think the best way to do that is to spend time with them, getting to know them, helping them and investing them.
Why has he got no welfare then?
Listen.
When he's worked for his country all his life, why is it being removed from him?
It's because of a firm called Atos Origin from the French government that has done a bad job of doing the medical,
so that's back
from
down
what
to
it
the
says.
European Union again.
Atos, let's not forget, was the brainchild of Labour, and Labour paid them a £110 million contract. Atos are destroying people's lives. We've just heard from Keith the miner, who's been told that he's fit enough to go to work by people from the Labour-invented Atos.
Labour has allowed people to have a lifestyle choice. If you don't want to work under Labour, you didn't have to work.
Let's address that with Sarah Champion. I mean, the accusation often levelled at your party is that 13 years you're in power, you allowed the benefits bill to spiral. And, you know, look at the result. So many people in this town and across our region just stuck on benefits?
We did bring Atos in, and we brought it in as a capability measure. If people are vulnerable, if people are disabled, if people are medically ill, then we need to support them. That's absolutely a given.
Well, Keith
but
wasn't
what
getting
we're
the
trying to
support,
do
was
is get
he?
people back into work, and that's the most important thing. At the moment, under the Tories, that's not happening at all. The welfare bill is going up. What we will be doing is very, very strongly supporting people to get them back into work. People that are working at the moment but are on low incomes, they're having their tax credits cut. So it's making it more and more difficult for hard-working people of Rotherham to make a living.
Let's move on now, because one of the most, I think, disturbing news stories to come out of Rotherham in recent times has been the revelation that criminal gangs have been targeting young girls in cases of so-called sexual grooming. Let's hear from one dad now who wants to remain anonymous.
My daughter was groomed and sexually exploited in Rotherham. After going to the police for help, nobody seemed interested in South Yorkshire. We wrote to the Home Secretary at the time, and we had letters from South Yorkshire Police saying no stone would be left unturned. An RMP tried to get a meeting with the police. The local politicians at the time should really hang their heads in shame, because they knew exactly what was going on in South Yorkshire and have known for a number of years. Social services and police have let my daughter down, and other children. The perpetrators who committed these acts on various girls, including my daughter, are still walking the streets of Rotherham and are free to carry on doing what they do, even though this was brought to the attention of the police and social services and local politicians at the time. Also, who's policing the police? Because the police have not stepped up to the plate as well. We feel there was no help available. There was no help out there when this was happening to us as a family. We feel that someone needs to answer the questions of what happened in our case and the other cases of girls and children who were let down in Rotherham.
Well, for their parts, Rotherham Council and South Yorkshire Police say they continue to develop their strategies. Some successful prosecutions have taken place, and Rotherham Council has run an anti-grooming unit for 15 years. Jane Collins, what do you say to the dad we've just heard from there, who basically believes the authorities haven't taken his daughter's claims seriously?
My heart goes out to him, of course, and he made a very poignant comment. He said, who's policing the police? So what I want to know is, are we going to have a cover-up of the cover-up?
We've had a cover-up in this town for 10 years. 6 years ago, I knew this was happening, and I was holding meetings in pubs. That was all I could get, the only way I could do it. The council didn't want to know social services or the police, and I thought the children in my town had got to be protected. And I held meetings in pubs asking people to come and explaining what was happening and explaining the warning signs that you've got to look for.
But it's not 6 years, is it? It's gone on for more than a decade. That is the
reality. They covered it up.
And they have covered it up. And one of the first things that I did when before I came here was to speak to some experts in child grooming to find out all the details about the problem in Rotherham. And the concern is across the community. A lot of Muslims are outraged because they said it's as though everybody thought we knew that it was happening, and we didn't. We called for an inquiry, and the deputy leader of the Labour Council called me Islamophobic, and he said, you are playing the politics of race. I am a parent, and like that father, you know, I don't want any child exposed to these filthy paedophile gangs, whoever they are. And why has this council been silent for so long?
Because they didn't want to upset the Asian vote, that's why. They didn't want to upset the Asian vote.
It's insulting to look at the Muslims in a block vote. They're all individual. And the real scandal here is that these vulnerable girls have been let down from day one by the police, by the CPS, by the parents, by the council, and of course these gangs that should have they should be dragged through the courts. And if he is right and says that they're still out on the street, I'd like to know what is happening.
The people that were involved in this, not all of them were arrested. They found a girl with a group of Asian men, and they never arrested any of them. I think if you're involved in it any way at all, you should have been brought to justice, and a lot were led just got away with it.
But the main question is, what are we going to do?
All right,
What is
Sarah
gonna
Champion,
happen
the
to stop
accusation
it?
here appears to be that our government minister said this on our programme a few months ago, that racial sensitivities, political correctness hampered the authorities in investigating these allegations. Do you believe in that?
What I find very uncomfortable is people trying to make political mileage out of this. What I would really like to be hearing everyone here saying is what we're going to do for the victims. These crimes are completely destroying the children, and they're completely destroying the families. That's why I'm backing Yvette Cooper, who wants to have an overarching inquiry to find out what's going on.
But
this is
Yvette
happening
Cooper's known
up
about
and
this
down
for
the
years as
country,
well. Why
and we're
hasn't
not doing
somebody
anything for
woken
the
up to it?
victims. So we need to be supporting the victims here.
The majority of paedophiles remain, you know, when you look at their profile, are white men, Simon Wilson. I mean, do you think this is worth making political capital out of?
I think we should all, in this room today, pledge that if we are successful in being elected, we will make contact with Keith and find out what he has to say, and we'll take that forward to Sean Wright and ask him to sort it out, to investigate it, to put this problem right.
Sean Wright did a brilliant job last time.
The victims have to be front and centre. Going after perpetrators is fine, but I think the primary duty of any local authority or any MP is to look for the victims and to give more support for them. I welcome the government's report. Hang on, I welcome the government's report, but I think as a former victim of sexual abuse that this is a very powerful and live issue, and that we have been... It has to be addressed with passion, and it has to be done now. And I don't think another cover-up is the answer, and I think there has been too much of a cover-up historically.
And I think if you know, whoever is elected as the next MP for Rotherham has to have the guts to take on local authority and hold them to account.
Well, I took them on 5 years ago and they didn't want to know.
We'll move on from that for now. In fact, actually, one of the other smaller parties hoping to do well in this by-election are the English Democrats. They came second to Labour in last week's PCC elections here in South Yorkshire. Let's hear from their candidate now. This is David Wildgoose.
We're standing up for all the people of England who are being abandoned effectively by the main parties. The reason why turnout is dropping so dramatically all over the country is the fact that people have recognised that the main parties don't care about them. Well, we actually do care about England and the people of England, and so we are actually going to make a change to that.
And there are four other candidates to mention here. Clint Bristow is representing the EDL. Simon Copley is an independent. Paul Dixon is also an independent. And Ralph Dyson of the Trade Unionists and Socialists Against Cuts.